Masai Ujiri has very rarely made mistakes as Raptors president or as GM, but it really feels as though a decision that he made this season is going to cost the team years. So, in this offseason, what are his plans in order to fix this issue and get the team back on track for its future? Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? This is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos, live streams, and shorts. If you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel for more Raptors content just like this, and you can help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers. When it comes to Masai Ujiri, the decision making with the Toronto Raptors, there are very few blemishes on his resume. There are a couple draft day decisions that maybe didn't go the way of the Toronto Raptors. I'm looking at you, Bruno Caboclo. And maybe there are very, very limited amounts of trades that didn't go our way. And it's only really happened in the last couple of years with the San Antonio Spurs and the Thaddeus Young debacle. But none have really been detrimental to the future of the organization. After all, along the way with those bad draft picks, you can look at maybe drafting Bruno Caboclo. You can look at maybe drafting JV, a good player. Did he go a little bit too early? But none of those cost the Raptors in their bid towards getting an NBA championship because there were so many other phenomenal decisions along the way that helped get us to that point. And after winning the championship in 2019, ever since then, it's been pursuit of the next one for Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors front office. And it feels as though we're starting to get into a little bit of a feeling of desperation from the front office to get this team back into contention. And maybe some blinders are going up that this team is not quite as good as the front office has made it out to be. And there are some massive decisions that need to go on in the offseason. The decisions and the information surrounding the decisions have been very frustrating for Raptors fans to process over the course of the season, but more so in the offseason. Fans are demanding answers. Fans are wondering what the direction is going to be. Is this going to be a team that wants to be competitive next season? Is this going to be a team that wants to focus on development next season? Or is this going to be a team that stays relatively the same and doesn't change much? Because again, there is that belief from the front office that this team can be competitive in its current state. But fans are wondering what exactly the direction is going to be. And like I said, it's a very complicated and difficult decision to make. So complicated and difficult that, according to some ESPN reports, conversations around the Toronto Raptors right now are indicating that even the front office doesn't understand what direction they want to go in the future. They don't know. They haven't selected anything because there are so many different factors that go into that decision making. As a result, it's going to be really difficult to hire a coach for the time being because if the front office doesn't know what direction they want to go in, they also won't know what the best coach is to lead them in that specific direction. And consequently, a coach doesn't want to come into a team where he doesn't know what the front office wants to do with the team. He doesn't know if he wants to enter a situation where the team is winning. Maybe a different coach doesn't want that. Maybe a coach doesn't want the winning. He wants to go into a development phase. So all these factors are surrounding the Raptors right now, which is leading to a ton of uncertainty, which is leading to a ton of frustration from the fan base. But how did we get to this point? Everything seemed so simple in 2019 when the Raptors won that NBA championship. You know, despite Kawhi Leonard leaving, fans, we were sold. We were sold on that team being able to run it back. And they got to a game 7 in the second round. But that was a damn good basketball team. But it feels like since then, we've been on a little bit of a decline. And sure, we had that amazing season a couple years ago. We won 48 games with a 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. We were expecting to build on that this season. But a lot of the cracks in the foundation really started to showcase themselves this season. Mainly the lack of depth in the team, mainly the lack of shooting within the team, and perhaps partially not having that bona fide star to carry us in difficult games, in late game situations. So the Toronto Raptors are stuck in the middle, and fans want that change, but the issue for the fan base might be that that change is not going to come because there was a decision Masai Ujiri made over the course of the season. I'm sure you can understand what that decision was that could set the Raptors back years in their pursuit of getting towards that contention status, getting back towards being the caliber of winning an NBA championship. And I'm talking, of course, of the trade deadline decision to trade for Jakob Poeltl. As far as that trade went, Masai Ujiri very rarely loses trades, and I don't think this was a losing trade either. If you look specifically at the valuation you got from Poeltl as a player, assuming he does re-sign, which I am going to assume, and you look at what we gave away in return. Jakob Poeltl is a damn good player, and a protected first-round pick along with a salary dump of Khem Birch and a second-round pick. That seems like a pretty good valuation of Jakob Poeltl. That's not a trade I am willing to say that Masai Ujiri lost, but where he did lose in this situation was betting on this core to be able to compete this season, the season that just passed. A team that was on the outside of the play-in tournament picture looking in, betting on that team to be able to make a push for the playoffs. At the time, that seemed like a bad idea. We don't need hindsight, but in hindsight, yes, it was a bad idea because the team missed out on the playoffs anyways, and they sacrificed being able to get a really good lottery pick in the process. It's easy to look at the Portland Trail Blazers picking third overall. It's easy to say that, hey, that was a team that had a better record than us at the time that we made that trade, and look at where they're drafting and look at where we're drafting. So it's easy to say that in hindsight, but we knew at the time that that wasn't a really great decision, and I voiced my frustrations with that decision and that mistake from Masai Ujiri at the time. So how can Masai Ujiri go on to fix this in the offseason? What I want to present to you guys is what I think the best course of action for this team is for the offseason. And then we're going to transition into what Masai Ujiri likely thinks will be the best option and what is going to be like the realistic option at the same time. So from my perspective, I know we don't have a 2024 first-round pick, but I would like this season to be focused on developing young players, starting to build up the youth within this team, starting to build up the development of these young players, and put a full focus on just getting wins with these guys. I know we don't have the 2024 first-round pick, but any young player we bring into the team, even though focusing on development likely will breed a team that wins 30 to 32 games, at least there is the full backing from the front office, from the coaching staff, and from the fans watching that team that we want to see as many wins as possible. Because over the course of this season, it felt like the fan base was divided. Maybe it was like 60 to 40. 60% of fans were bought in on winning. 60% of fans wanted this team to go and try and make the playoffs, where like 40% were upset when the team won games. We're upset as the team were trying to get back into contention. So it was a bit contentious, no pun intended, between the fans and other parts of the fan base where some wanted wins and some did not want wins. But we're all going to be bought in on the same thing this season, and getting the backing and instilling that confidence within the players in the court that we want to see this team win games, I think will breed some beautiful development from the players. So how can we go about doing that? Well, I think in order to really, really dial in on developing players, I think the best thing for the team would be to trade Pascal Siakam. Now, I hate that. I love Siakam. It'd be so sad to see him go. The red jersey right here is a Pascal Siakam jersey. I love Pascal Siakam, but you can get some really damn good value from Pascal right now at 29 years old, maybe on the tail end potentially soon of his prime. I mean, I think he has a little bit more in him, but you can get great valuation. You can move up in the draft. It is really starting to look like that third overall pick from the Portland Trail Blazers won't be available for trade, but it's starting to open up that the possibility of the Houston Rockets trading the fourth overall pick is in play. Can you move Siakam to get either the third or fourth pick? That's where I'd start. Get a really good lottery pick. You start building a foundation around him. Scotty Barnes gets more touches. OG Anunoby gets more touches. And I think the team makes a whole lot more sense. In that scenario, you still have your 13th overall pick where you can draft a guy like Casey Wallace, Keontae George, Jordan Hawkins, Bryce Sensabaugh, Cody Buffkin. Lots of players you can look at 13th overall to bolster the depth and bolster the youth within this team. In the offseason, you still have Boucher, you still have Achua, you still have Koloko. Hopefully you can bring in a shooter or just a guard who can shoot on a mid-level exception. The mid-level exception this season I think is going to be around $10 million. Can you get Javon Carter from the Milwaukee Bucks? He's going to be a free agent. Can you get Dante DiVincenzo from the Golden State Warriors? There's a possibility he could be a free agent. Just start to focus on developing. Put the team in a specific direction where the fans can get behind it for what the team is going to be going forward. You're not going to make the playoffs with that team, but hey, maybe you just develop players and find some diamonds in the rough. Along the way, Fred VanVleet doesn't re-sign. You look for a sign and trade. Can you add in some more depth pieces in that trade? I think 100% you're able to do that. You're giving the possibility of the fourth or third overall pick to start. Maybe your 13th overall pick starts. A lot of great options for development for the future that I can certainly get behind with this team, and I can accept a losing season for that to happen. But we need to transition into what Masai Ujiri is likely going to do with this team. Remember, this is a guy who 3-4 months ago really went in on this team. He bought in on this team. He bought in on this core. And as a result of buying in, it cost him his 2024 first-round pick. Now, part of that reasoning was that we're not expecting to see a very strong draft class for 2024 as we did see for 2023, or we expect to see from 2023. That went into the decision a little bit, but you still would want that draft pick because there still are going to be good players that come out of that draft. But somebody in Masai Ujiri who bought in on this team, was willing to gamble his 2024 first-round pick to gamble on this team, it would be really strange for 3 months, 4 months later for Masai Ujiri to backtrack on that and say, you know what, I was wrong. We lost a 2024 first-round pick, but so be it. Let's fall back and focus on development. This is definitely a situation for Masai Ujiri where he made that investment on this core. I expect that this season he is going to double down. We don't have the pick, so hey, you may as well try to win games. And Masai Ujiri has that belief that this team can be competitive. He's going to put it back out there on the court. I think Gary Trent Jr. along the way, we're going to lose him. A lot of players to pay. I don't think Gary Trent Jr., there's going to be room for him. The Raptors, my expectation is they will move on. I'm leaning towards that they will sign Fred VanVleet to a new contract. I'm leaning that they will keep Fred VanVleet in this scenario as well, wanting to be competitive. Fred VanVleet will be a part of that. The starting five will stay the exact same as it was to end last season. You know what? That starting five was competitive, but along the way, we're going to add a little bit of depth. Chris Boucher, Precious is still here. Christian Koloko is still here. Can he be the 10th man in the rotation? I think so. We're bringing a guy in a mid-level exception. Javon Carter still available. Dante DiVincenzo potentially available in this mid-level exception hypothetical situation that I'm drawing up here. Along the way, you also get your 13th overall pick. That's a guy who's going to be one of the key players coming off of your bench, and all of a sudden, the team makes more sense, and the team improves on what it was last season because it's the same team with a little bit of extra depth and a little bit of extra shooting, hopefully. If that's the case, the team is better for sure. Probably not better than 7th place. That probably still is a play-in caliber team. That is a team that would make the play-in tournament, in my opinion. That's not really a desirable outcome for this season. I get that we don't have our pick anyways, but then where you get at the end of that season. Siakam is extension eligible this summer. Not convinced he'll sign his extension because he wants to make All-NBA one more time. OG Anunoby is extension eligible this summer. Not convinced he's going to sign an extension because he's capped on what he can make from his extension. His max, he probably wants to run his luck this season to improve that max and sign a bigger deal at the end of this season. At the end of this season as well, when I expect Siakam and OG need to get paid as free agents, Scotty Barnes will be extension eligible from his rookie contract. And all of a sudden, if we are in that situation where we put this team to be competitive this year, now we have all these guys to pay, and we have all these guys to pay from what has likely been another mediocre season from the Raptors. And it just feels like the foundation we were building up with this team really got set back with that decision at the trade deadline to trade for Jakob Poeltl. I love Jakob Poeltl as a player, but that decision to go and invest in this core, it is going to set this team back a number of years. And that is the most costly mistake, the most expensive mistake Masai Ujiri has ever made with this team, that is ever made with the franchise. I just think the team is stuck in the middle of nowhere. I think they will be stuck in the middle of nowhere next season. And we're going to be wondering again what the direction of this team is going to be. And I think we're going to get to a point regardless that we're going to start investing in youth. We're going to start investing in development. We're going to get to that point in the next few years. So why not start right now? Why not start right now and save those years of potential hardships going forward? I get, you don't know until you try, but it really feels as though this team cannot compete with the top of the Eastern Conference in the way it's constructed. And it's time to have a little bit of a rehash, a little bit of a reset. But I just don't expect it to come from Masai Ujiri. What do you guys think? What do you think is the most realistic path Masai Ujiri takes in the offseason? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing to Amateur Hour Sports for more Raptors content just like this. June will be the month of the NBA draft. I'll have so many videos breaking down individual prospects the Raptors could select with the 13th overall pick. It's not as good as 3rd overall, but there are still some great players available. We'll look into them together. See you next time for another video.